Good morning. Hello, everybody. Episode 9. Thank you for being here. Um, Wanted to talk about memories and what is available to us when we have more and more access to our memory and therefore to our child. Um, I think, people you've done work with psychedelics probably where you get taken back to a moment in your childhood. I was with a friend once where he remembered something very traumatic from a very young age while we were on psychedelics. Um, the memory was such a catalyst for him; it completely, you know, brought back the wound. And then it's crazy, right? Because when it's really intense, like this is a schizophrenic man that I trained with in a sense for a long time, and um, when it came up, everything that happened because of that wound made sense. There was this great relief in knowing that the abuse that was done to him by his priest over and over and over throughout his childhood, um, knowing that had happened, gave him the opportunity to finally accept why he was the way he was and what had occurred ever since. Because he spent the rest of his life in and out of juvie. So it was really profound to see him cry and release in the way that he did after holding something up for from 4 to he was 19 maybe when it came out, 18. And it was so amazing just to be around, or just to be there and to witness it energetically. I didn't know what he was going through. He wasn't talking about it, but we were tapped into each other on a pretty significant level, and we were in a really unique moment in our life. We were, really in a liberated place with the the rave scene in Portland had just gone off, and we were just in love with music and dancing and people, and um, it just it was so intense. And then for him to then try to go and make peace with it by telling the people that he had hurt and the things that he had gotten himself into and try to bring balance to his life. um, his memory wasn't validated, right? His mother didn't believe him. um, it was assumed that it was the LSD, that he was hallucinating. But after time, um, it turned out that that priest in Portland had done all this stuff to many kids. And in fact, when this all came out, that priest was living in Seattle with 4 other pedophile priests that were protected by the church. Um, they had been relocated to smaller churches, and but they were still there was a lawsuit going on, and my friend got involved in a major lawsuit that was going to successfully allow him to get a bunch of money. But he was declared mentally ill prior to that, and in the U.S. you can't receive any um, I don't know, compensation for situations of the nature that he was involved in if you're mentally ill. And so um, yeah, well, and I mean, he thought his mom was going to try to take the money, and he was on psychedelics, and when he saw the paperwork that his mom was working toward to try to get this all resolved for him while he was in and out of jail. And he saw the paperwork, and he thought his mom was trying to take the money, so he called the lawyer and said, I'll settle for $1 million cash right now. I'll meet you at like 7-Eleven. And so the whole thing, that's how he became declared mentally ill, and it all backfired, and all the work his mom had done fell through. Um, at certain points, a statute of limitation occurs, and those priests are still allowed to live their lives. They still are protected. It's all over the world like that. So memories are a catalyst. For Toltecs, they get taken all the way back to They have a shaman help them. They get pushed back to the perception when they're like really young, like a baby. But they get to go there with all the gnosis and knowledge and experience that they have now. So you get pushed back into this memory and you're like, what is this? Like, well, you have no reference for what you're seeing because you're little. So the world looks so much bigger. And so even the most obvious things would appear to be something different than they are. Because you're in this, for one, it's two things. You're in the brand new awareness of a baby. So you don't know what a carpet is. You don't know what the difference between a light bulb and a sun or a moon. So when you're that young, you really are seeing the world from fresh perspective without any bias or gnosis around any of it, which is really where gnosis really is. It's when that, and that's what I'm trying to help people get to, is to go back to the place where they can perceive the world without much curiosity. Psychedelics do that for sure, but that's not sustainable to do all the time, and so you do want to find a way in which it works for you, um, if you're interested in that type of flexible perception, that type of fluidity. And so memories are a catalyst to getting that place. The more and more you work with your memories, the more access you'll have to your child, the more access you'll have to your longing, which is where your dharma is tied in. And so it's so worth coming to terms with what I'm talking about when I refer to the recapitulation. The recapitulation sounds like a too daunting of a task, and most people don't listen when it's talked about, because there's something going on that is keeping us from recapitulating, because it's such a significant way for us to evolve. And so there's great pressure on the masses to not do so. The type of pressure that is put on us is to make sure that we maintain a sexual focus and a material one, so that we're focused on how, and it's hard to explain, but for whatever reason, that's the chakra that is under the onslaught in this perception. And the reason the world is so unconscious is because of this. We're tied to this, to the carnal, which is unfortunate, because when you liberate from it, then sex becomes incredible. You don't have to be. It's not based on need, or it's not based on like fear. There's no fear of like, oh, I haven't gotten laid, or this has to happen in order to be right, in order to move my energy. And so I'm teaching people how to move their energy without having to be um, resorting to lower chakra fear-based perceptions. That doesn't mean you should spend time away. It doesn't mean you don't want to be in your lower chakras. You want to know all of what's going on for you, everywhere, all the time. And so you want to be in all your chakras and feel like you've balanced your energy. A lot of people try to live just in the upper chakras, and they're cutting off the feelings from the lower chakras. That's not going to help long term. That'll make you that leads to schizophrenia 100%. That's what happens. That's why I bring up a lot about sexual shadow therapists. They seem to be the only ones talking about this, that sort of like sustainably. They're talking about it as a critical aspect. And I never heard Toltecs talk like that. Toltecs have such a different way in which they go about it. It's really almost reckless and dangerous. So they didn't offer us a sustainable way, really. They came up with they're just the scientists of energy. They're called the learned ones. They took the time to find out the importance of details that we don't even know how to interact with yet, and we're still caught in the details that don't matter. But regardless, they do talk about the sexual focus. For men, learning to not ejaculate while making love is huge. Um, I mean, it's everything. Once you have the breakthrough, then you no longer need to, and you no longer, because you lose a lot of that dreaming energy which feels amazing to not carry that stress. But there's a way to recycle that, especially with a conscious sexual partner. Um, that energy goes to them. They give it back to you. You give it to them. It's through the kissing that is where that exchange occurs of that sexual energy. When a woman is climaxing and she's kissing you at the same time, and if she knows how to share that energy, she can heal you. you can do the same for a man. When you're orgasming but you're not releasing, then you're able to then lend that energy to her, and once it becomes circular, then you're healing each other, and it's holistic. But if you're at that point of maturity, then you're not looking for sex as a distraction, but you're doing it as an evolutionary and naturally evolving act. You're not scheduling it or in fear of it not happening, which I was. I was super caught up for many, many years on that was what I was pursuing as a way to balance my stress, to just to feel, just to justify the fact that I did all this for her. It just the ego is just insane, and it's so difficult to come to terms with uh, how far along we were allowed that we allowed ourselves to get. But that's all shadow work. It's okay, no matter, even if you're right in it right now, and a lot of you are. I mean, the carnal stuff is not easy to evolve from, and it's not something to avoid. So I need to clarify that your memories are tied to your sexual experiences. So it's good to start with your sexual experiences when you recapitulate, and you just want to learn how to figure out, how can I get pull my energy back from this experience, and how can I get the energy out of me that I took on. So you're just reclaiming your luminosity, and giving back any luminosity that isn't yours. um, there's a 7-year bond that happens with every partner from the moment you cross that threshold, and you enter a woman and she's entered. There's a bond that occurs. It takes 7 years. It has to do with the male extension of the male's semen's. It's like an energetic projection or a tentacle that reaches out just to connect. And that's not just has anything to do with semen itself. So it doesn't matter if you release as a man or not. The bond happens the minute you penetrate. So our memories are tied to those sexual experiences so tightly and so densely that we're we're really caught and trapped. Our perception is really limited, and so the breakthrough is incredible when you stop seeking out the distractions of addiction, cravings, sex, all of it. Then all of those things become incredible. You can have a healthy relationship with those items, right? It's so much better to have a healthy relationship with cannabis than an unhealthy one. Same with alcohol or LSD or mushrooms or anything. And I don't do any chemicals, right? So I can't. Shamans don't work with chemicals. It won't be sustainable. So ecstasy is not an option. LSD is not an option. It's, mushrooms. It's, you can take fermented wine and things into your body. It's not good for you, but it's not a chemical like cocaine or something, So, um, so it's just super delicate. I'm ultra sensitive to those things. I can't even be around it very easily. Um, so it's hard to live in towns where everybody's on coke, like Telluride, Colorado, or Aspen, or I mean, you literally just it's just so much crazy energy to be around, and or just but I've learned to figure it out. I'm in the music. I go to music 5 nights a week. Um, I mean, I did pre COVID. So it's not like I can't handle it. It's just I'm ultra sensitive to it, and I've had to learn how, as an empath, how to become indifferent and detached and observe it rather than project or fear or judge it. Um, some of my funniest, closest friends are just ragers, and I totally support them. I don't ask them to change. They do ask me, am I doing okay? And I check in on them and stuff. And then I do tell them when things are not working out, but then that's when they stop listening. And then we usually doesn't work out, but because they don't want to hear it, even though they asked for me to give them a heads up if it ever gets that far. Um, some of them do, though. I mean, everyone, it's kind of like everyone has to hit rock bottom in a sense, just to know yourself. But at the same time, you don't want to force that. I don't know. Somehow we have to quit taking ourselves so seriously, because then some force shows up and just takes care of things, and we don't have to micromanage it. You just sort of follow your gut feelings, even your addictions and cravings and longings, all the way to the sort of where they lead you. And that's what impeccability is versus discipline. Discipline is like forced, it's unsustainable. It's a good thing to have, but eventually you have to transition to being truly honest and fulfill all the feelings within your being and figure out where they take you. And because you'll find out that all the things that you were seeking as distraction aren't the things you really longed for. And so you find out really fast. It's not, you don't even have to hit rock bottom, you just have to validate that. So that's something to look at too. And so when you set up a memory, you're willing to go into it, it's an exciting thing. At first, you want to set it up. You don't want to just do it right before you're going to sleep or something. It's something when you have the energy to sort of focus. And but prior to that, writing down names, writing down lists of names, keep trying to get to a list that is every name of every person you've ever met. I mean, I know that sounds too difficult, but this task is so worth doing. um, every name, you're not going to remember every name, so you can even write, oh, that girl that passed me in the hall that was after I was fighting with my girlfriend in grade school. Like, I mean, it gets like that. You don't, the memories that show up, you're just like, whoa, 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 look, I can see all these people, these faces, and you're just like, okay, yeah, curly hair, glasses, yellow shirt, says something. Like, that's one person on your list. And right then, while you're writing on the list, you can just try to breathe in the memory, breathe in the energy from that exchange, and also breathe in the linoleum and the carpet, and breathe in the mood of the whole experience, because that's what you're after. There was an exchange, not just with the people. um, it was with this assembled reality. This is an illusion, and so if we draw energy back from the illusion, then we will perceive the creator, and then the creator will help us become a creator. um, Otherwise, honestly, it's unconscious dreaming. This right now, as me on this, on this computer, this whole illusion, it's just an unconscious vision that we're in. We can move from this vision to another vision though. And that's when we'll know and have another reference point. Just like people that eat really well, you won't know what it feels like to eat well until you have the reference of having got all the sludge out of your body and all the parasites. Then you'll know. Then you'll be like, oh, this is what we're supposed to feel like. I feel fucking incredible. I have no fatigue. That's what happens. You're just like, well, fuck. It was never worth eating anything that was heavy, um, and karmically out of balance, right? So, I get it. Shamans use meat to for power, and they even hunt their own power animals so that they have the power of that animal. And I'm not suggesting shamans change, but we're moving into an evolutionary time where, as a sun gazer, I'm not going to need to eat much. I definitely don't need to eat meat anymore. I never did. I got lied to and confused, and as we all did, and even shamans, I believe, now are, well, there's just it doesn't matter for certain shamans. It doesn't matter what you eat because they're not in this vision. Therefore, the exchange and all of that is really different for them. And then there's breatharians that don't eat at all. And that they're the same kind of people. They're the kind of people that it doesn't matter what they do. They can be breatharians or they can eat whatever they want. Because they've changed their cellular structure. They're not in a same, reality as we are. They're moving in and out of this abyss, or in and out of here into the abyss, into other assembled worlds and entire other realities, just like this one. And so there's a couple things, that change the whole deal, right? Getting mature enough to focus on your well-being as an evolutionary creature, regardless of what your friends and family are doing, and beckoning an elusive force called intent. Shamans say you cannot harness intent, and yet you are pure intent. So it's a contradiction. Intent isn't forced. right? And so it's not a trying. People talk about trying as if it's a good thing. Um, it's like learning how to snowboard wrong. It's gonna be really hard to learn how to snowboard correctly if you spent 14 years snowboarding incorrectly. Where you were forcing the movement rather than allowing the natural, beautiful, organic, dynamic body movement to open those doors for you so that you would flow in the most natural way, right? And so, same with martial arts. Like you see a lot of really badass martial arts artists, and yet they weren't liberated in their training. They didn't find that most natural place, and so there's some force to it. And so, as an old man or an old woman, they will be unsuccessful at continuing to effectively execute those movements because they are using their muscles. Um, and that's not what these magical arts are designed for. Doesn't mean muscles don't play a role. Um, I look super small, but I'm insanely strong because of the type of training I do. Um, so when you go to push me backwards or pull me over, and even though I'm much less weight than you are, you find it very difficult. Um, because I know how to put my roots into the earth, and I also know how to pull them up right away so that I can be light and quick. And so it's really difficult, to fight someone like myself. Because for one, I'm not interested in fighting. I'm there to help you not hurt yourself or me, and or anyone else. And it's really confusing. And so I'm just looking for your strike, your opening, so that I can enter. Um, and I'm not attached to the outcome, and I don't have any fear. And so it really throws people off. And, um, and that's how I want everyone to feel in their life with everything, right? I've never worn a mask. I walk into the craziest situations this whole year and just got you know, fucked with so hard, cops and the whole thing, and it doesn't bother me. I might as well do that, somebody's got to do it. And I just calmly and slowly and thoroughly explain everything, and and they just eventually there's nothing they can do. Um, it's I have the right to I can say I have an emergency. I need food and water right now. You have to let me in, or you have to assist me, and I call the cops. Like whatever, I'll do whatever it takes to help the people to understand that they're just all fully retarded and that they're just going along with lies. Um, but my point being is that like intent is is something that arrives when you're no longer afraid. If you're trying, you're in fear. You're fear of God or fear of judgment, or you're trying to change, and um, you've already arrived. You're amazing already. This existence is amazing. Therefore, you're amazing. The like your eyes are amazing, right? You're a miracle. Every feeling that moves through you is a miracle. The fact we exist is a miracle. And so it's just all beyond our wildest dreams, and yet we have yet to even know that it is a dream. Therefore, we can't even interact with it in a lucid way, right? I practice more lucidity in a day than probably um, your average person will experience, in an entire lifetime. And for shamans that are uh, moving on at speeds, we should talk about that changing speed. But when you change speed, but shamans that are interacting on a level of speed that isn't, you know, uh, perceivable, that isn't something you or I would be able to even witness, where their dreaming body is activated and it's doing it for them. That type of intensity, that the type of intensity they're experiencing in a half a second is more than I have experienced in my entire lucid path. So intensity is exponential, if that makes sense. And yet People that can do that work are still going to have their own folly and misunderstandings around things. So we're just we're extreme, right? You could be extremely powerful, an old sorcerer that can travel through any reality or dimension and open doors and create their entire own world for others to come into. And yet they still may have not evolved as a mature being in the realms of the heart. And, in fact, usually they're not. They're focused on power. So that's what I mean. Like, it's so extreme. Like, so we don't need the sorcerers that can travel to the end of the world and back. We need the heart based people that are holding space and just are willing, to activate their um their imaginations. We have really beautiful imaginations to return to. Thus, I focus on memory, 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 memory. Look, feel your memories. Remember your grandmother when she was younger. Remember but don't dwell on these things. Don't let these people hold you back. This is a fierce act I'm talking about. This is going back and collecting yourself, reclaiming yourself, and extracting yourself from the way people perceive you, closing doors, like saying goodbye to people that aren't not like in a final way, but like in a loving way. Even if you're just talking to their higher self, it's time for healthy boundaries. Um, Nobody should be draining your energy, and until you know how to not get drained by certain people, then be willing to say, "Hey, I need some space." And so, intent, memory. Again, intent isn't something I can teach, but the Castaneda books will reveal to you the essence of it. You already know it. I mean, when you're really good at pool or whatever, and you let your body move, decide how to shoot that cue. It Your body knows exactly what to do. If you're an Air Force pilot, your body is just completely in tune with the whole structure, the whole shit. For the even just what we do with cars, the speeds we drive, the intensity, like there's an autopilot factor to us that's incredible. And part of that is the second attention, part of that is intent. The athletes have unbending intent in its particular area. When a guy pitches a no-hitter, that's no fucking joke. That's insane, you guys. That means that person maintained pretty much no thoughts. That person that's a real thing. So some of the sickest possible sorcerers on this earth have been recruited by the MLB and the NBA and the NFL and the NHL, and they got caught in a physical reality and are making the big bucks and get to do what they want here on this earth, but they're not like living in a state of full ecstasy because they've accessed the energetic layers, you guys. They would trade it all in for liberation and freedom if they knew, but they don't know. We all intuit it. Um, and then you look at shamans, you're like, well, I don't want to be a fucking shaman. Like they look crazy, But that's what I'm saying. Like that's the trick. It's like that's not what's about shaman. You would never know you're interacting with a shaman. Uh, they keep their day jobs. They do the normal things, the real ones. If they're wearing all the if they're dressed up, acting crazy, and doing all this stuff, that's not shamanism. I mean, that's a form of shamanism. That's not the kind I recommend getting into. You're looking for balanced people, people that aren't running from things, people that are walking toward things instead. Yeah. Um, so I hope that you just really will draw on your past not in an unhealthy way, but in a healthy way, so that you can no longer live in the past. Just clean it up. Just go collect it. Be careful of purification, moving too quickly. It's a real tricky thing I'm seeing. People, yeah, if you don't deal with your trauma and you try to purify and your trauma's undealt with, um, it just doesn't work out. Sorry. I wish it did. Um, a lot of us have trauma we don't even know about. I remember an accident, a car accident that was really little, but it just shook me. It shook me enough that I have this memory of my life of being in a car seat, like as a pretty much as a baby. You know, um, we need to get access to these things, even though they may not seem like important. They turn out to they very much are, and then they become key for getting our energy back. They could become key for developing intent, which leads to unbending intent. Unbending intent is necessary in order to come out of hypnosis all the way. So people that are telling you how to get out of hypnosis, they're not talking about this. So they're just expecting you to do something that they don't know how they did. And that's kind of dangerous, right? So we want to be more careful, um, and honor people for where they're at, and talk about the trauma first and foremost, and then move into purification based on that. And so basically getting kind of an assessment determined of what's priority for you would be a good thing. um, I or others can help with that. It's just getting real, getting realistic, coming up with a game plan that's going to be successful for you, because I do want all of you to have access to your power and to your love, and to your self-love. Remember to rub your heart. It's okay to just do that wherever. Who cares what you look like? But it does open every time more when you rub your heart. You can feel it. You have to do it. Get there. Just don't stop until you feel your breath will change. Yeah, it feels so good. It's so good to take care of yourself, to eat things that are loving to yourself, that give you the nourishment you need, and then the thoughts and feelings, um, and the music, and the places you can go to that make you feel this way. So I know I've said some of this, but it does need to be resaid, I think, so that we're reminded that we have all the tools, but there's a hypnosis part that makes this really difficult. That's tied to the trauma, therefore the memories. There's so many feelings back in your memories. I promise, there's brand new ones. The more you do this, you won't have to go after it, they'll come after you. And intent will as well. Yeah, don't force. Trying is to suffer. um but admit where you're at, ask for help if you don't have the capacity to have your own intent. Otherwise you just sort of like try and fail, and like when you could have just got help. Like it doesn't have to even cost you or anything. Like there's help out there. People are willing to help. It's just usually the people that can help or the people that you don't want to hear from, because they're going to tell you the truth. And so you end up going to get help from people that aren't going to actually help you. And so you, those people are in place as a contract for you to learn from, but it's a trap. But it doesn't mean you won't learn, from that, and then find a more sustainable system for you. So be willing to be super fierce, in that you're willing to go hunt for that which is, um, your essence. Go after your essence, you guys. Pursue it with every fiber of your being. It's yours to reclaim, and it's pure. It can be put all the way back together, and then when you have access to it, you literally swim in it. You don't want to be with people. You spend your time in darkness, playing music, moving your body in the most dynamic ways, because your sexual energy is expressing itself through now a dreaming capacity. You move beyond the need for orgasm. You move into just that activated kundalini, fully alive serpent moving through you, changing you. It's worth all of it, right? So when that sexual energy is rising is when you can learn to go after your memories and use your sexual energy as a tool for self-evolution. um, so be creative with that. Don't judge yourself for having sexual energy or having all that energy running through you. That's what we are. We are sexual beings. It's just that we are under the influence of forces that try to make us focus on that rather than holistically balance and move that sexual energy throughout our whole chakra line. Uh, I had people telling me this for a long time before I was able to make use of it, but I had to hear it before I was ever going. The seed had to be planted, so that's what I'm offering. Some of you have done this work already. Some of you have stuff to tell me and show me, and I look forward to hearing from you, and would love to get into discussions eventually. So I'm hoping to have people on here like you guys, people that want to come on a Zoom call, and we can pre-record it. So in case something, you didn't want to happen happens, and we don't have to show it. But the more comfortable we all get having these conversations live and stuff, um, I think the more dynamic and comfortable others will be, and more vulnerable people will be willing to be. Um, and that's where a lot of beautiful things happen for the individual and for the collective, right? The more vulnerable, the more tears. If you've ever been with thousands of people doing laugh therapy at the same time, it doesn't stop, right? Because the laughing causes everyone to laugh, and then that causes more laughter, and it just starts rolling and rolling, and when you're starting to come down, and you're like, holy shit, I have to stop laughing. Somebody else has their breakthrough, and then their laugh is so contagious that everyone starts cracking up. It can go on to indefinite. People have to leave because it doesn't stop, and that's huge, right? So we want to get in those 1,000 groups, 1,000 person groups, doing not only that but really really cool stuff that's even more focused, so that the laughter becomes like this sustainable joy that we can harness and use as a means to travel for real. Yeah. Group dreaming is like beyond heaven, you guys. First, you got to find out that this is heaven, right? You got to get past your the veil. Just get past it. This is heaven, all of it, right? Whenever the sun is out, you have access to heaven. If the clouds are here, if the anything, it just depends on how you perceive it. And so, but once you know that this is heaven, and then you become an awakened dreamer, then you can dream with others in the most incredible ways, and the most incredible affection is exchanged. It's way beyond, you know, sensuality. It's pure. So we all want that, but we got entangled in something very different. That's okay. That gives us now a vast purpose to pursue and to fall in love with. Thank you guys. Look forward to hearing back from you, and you'll see me again.